Today on Investigate TV Plus, creating shade and sustenance.
Meandering around this food forest and being able to pick and eat is just incredible.
Tall trees, twisting vines, and bountiful shrubs are taking root in unlikely locations.
It was just an empty lot. Lots of nefarious behavior going on in the dark of wee hours of the morning.
We take an in-depth look at how cities transform eyesores into food forests and explain how this urban oasis improves climate and boosts food security.
Then, pediatric cancer is a life-altering diagnosis that reaches far beyond the child.
And it just kind of underlined that this has been a whole family experience, and she paid the highest cost physically.
We examine how the disease can redefine a family's sense of normal, provide insight into the most common forms of the disease in kids, plus
fortunately, science has made lots of progress.
A doctor shares a promising message about treatment and survival.
And from trauma to triumph.
I've got everything I need to be contented, and I am.
Her job is to preserve history, but she'd rather be defined by the present. We reveal the mantras that inspired her to overcome a troubled past.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus. Food insecurity, heat islands, stormwater runoff, and lost green space, they can all be common challenges in today's densely populated, concrete-heavy cities. But is there a common solution? I'm T. Chappelle.
And I'm Lee Zurich. Reporter Heather Graff has an in-depth look at one approach that's growing, quite literally, across the country, and asks whether urban food forests could be the answer to several big problems for cities.
Yeah, that one's ripe. Oh, here's a little chokeberry.
If the sign out front doesn't catch your attention,
Pomegranate.
then odds are Dawn Taft probably will.
But here's a beauty.
Her excitement palpable as she shows us around the property.
Look at them. They're everywhere.
And shows off what she believes is food for the soul.
When they're in full bloom, they're just big and beautiful and happy.
Dawn is the city arborist and manager of environmental programs here in Hyattsville, Maryland. And this is one of 2 food forests she helps oversee on behalf of the city and its residents.
Popular are the figs and the persimmon. We have currant, we have blackberries, we have raspberries, hazelnuts, pecans, beach plum.
Food forests, as the name suggests, are designed to produce edible harvests that are typically free for public picking. But they're different from a community garden because food forests incorporate fruit and nut-bearing trees alongside perennials and shrubs, with a goal of mimicking the natural ecosystem.
So it's a layered effect. The plants are chosen and planted to help each other grow.
The result, Dawn says, is this quiet, shaded green space that feels almost secluded. But in reality, it's just about 8,600 square feet tucked between an auto repair shop and a row of houses. A railroad crossing and a funeral home among its neighbors, as this once vacant lot in the middle of the city has now been transformed.
The mayor wanted to find some way to bring community back to the neighborhood.
Oh, this is much better.
Freddie Reed lives right next door and has watched so many people collect their favorite fruits here, he started handing out small bags to visitors when their haul is too big to carry by hand.
I don't think they expect for so much fruit to be here.
It's got to make you proud. I'm pretty proud. I'm pretty happy. Still learning, though.
It's a learning process that began back in 2014 when the city worked with landscape designer Lincoln Smith, who has helped create numerous urban food forests in the Mid-Atlantic region.
How do you go about designing a food forest?
It starts with talking to the local community about what crops they'd like to see, because if you don't have people in and enjoying and harvesting from the food forest, it's not doing its job.
But if the food forest is doing its job, Smith feels this approach can have broad benefits in cities. For starters, since urban areas are often dubbed food deserts with limited access to affordable, healthy food, he says the fresh produce grown in food forests is a much-needed resource.
Some of these are in neighborhoods where there aren't full-service grocery stores, but also it's that experience and that kid growing up like, I know where berries come from. I can grow some if I want to at some point.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture, in this 2024 write-up, also noted the impacts of urban food forests, saying they can sequester carbon to help mitigate climate change, and calling them a form of agroforestry that can address urban-specific issues like food insecurity, heat islands, soil contamination, limited wildlife habitat, and stormwater runoff.
They're not a solution to just one thing. Once I started doing the research, I went out to 30 sites across the country and met firsthand with different people at the food forests.
Catherine Bukowski runs the website communityfoodforests.com and spent years building out this map that tracks dozens of food forests popping up in cities across the country.
Is it a movement? Are we seeing more cities experiment with this?
Yes, I think so, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I think it's just continuing to be refined, and people are figuring out what's working and what isn't.
And that last part has really been the focus of her research. So much so, Bukowski wrote this food forest handbook that covers potential benefits, challenges, and best practices.
Signage is really, really important.
In Hyattsville, you can see each plant and tree is labeled, and the signs include QR codes that can be scanned for details on when specific foods are in season and ready for harvest.
You know, people are allergic to different foods. It's good to just let people know exactly what is growing there.
Bukowski says cities must also remember food forests are a long-term commitment.
They're not maintenance-free, definitely not.
More than 10 years in at this site.
I am trying to give this pawpaw some light.
And Dawn will tell you she and her team of city staff still do regular pruning. Plus, they pay an outside contractor to weed and mow about twice a month.
I often tell people to start small as a best practice and then expand over time.
As for how to measure success, Bukowski believes that part is rather simple.
People in the area happen to know about it. They're just wandering in. They've been there before.
Something we saw firsthand during our stop in Hyattsville.
Everything good in here. It's very sweet.
And something Dawn Taft says she gets to see.
All right, nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Almost every day.
There's very few times when I'm here that there's not somebody here. So I think the biggest indicator is that the fruit is being eaten. It's just working.
A couple years ago, the USDA partnered with an organization called the National Center for Appropriate Technology, or NCAT, for a project aimed at learning more about successful urban food forests in several different states, from Kansas to Florida to Massachusetts. We spoke to NCAT about that work and why this type of agroforestry seems to be catching on.
I think people are seeing the value that's coming out of these urban landscape food forests. If you have a space that isn't being used, maybe is an eyesore. A lot of people enjoy nature, and especially when you live in the city, it's hard to come by.
In many cases, that USDA project found municipalities are teaming up with local nonprofits in building these urban food forests as a way to help reduce costs for the city and to help with the maintenance challenge as well.
Still ahead, Street Check, an outreach program detects dangerous substances, reduces overdose risk, and potentially prevents deaths. We examine a life-saving effort led by a medical examiner. Plus,
we were completely blindsided. You know, when we heard the word heroin, it took me to my knees.
A family looks to change the conversation about drug misuse and addiction.
But first, a little girl's unexpected trip to the ER became the start of a harrowing 2-year journey for her family.
I knew that we were going to need a lot of help.
We explore how a pediatric cancer diagnosis goes beyond the patient, plus hear from a young thriver. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, it's something no family is prepared for.
Psychologists say the illness can cause parents to suffer from anxiety, depression, and symptoms of PTSD. It's also an adjustment for siblings who can feel stressed, overwhelmed, guilty, and even neglected.
In North Carolina, a little girl's leukemia fight was a major adjustment for her entire family. From hospital stays to home routines, reporter Natisha Lance shows us how they found strength in each other and the community.
Which beads did she bring for you?
Hundreds of beads lay out a more than 2-year courageous cancer journey for 8-year-old Ruthie Dickinson and her family.
Do you remember receiving blood?
No. It all started in December 2022 when Ruthie's parents, Travis and Carrie, noticed their 5-year-old wasn't quite herself.
She was just kind of fatigued, feeling tired more often, not having as much energy.
And her stomach was bloated.
They made an appointment to see their pediatrician, but ended up in the ER, where doctors soon diagnosed Ruthie with T-cell lymphoblastic leukemia, known as ALL, a relatively rare form of leukemia.
We've unfortunately had a lot of people with cancer in our lives, even before that, and of various, outcomes. And so, of course, all of that was spinning in the back of my head.
And Carrie rallied the community around them.
I knew that we were going to need a lot of help.
Ruthie spent the next 9 nights in the pediatric ICU under the care of pediatric hematologist-oncologist Dr. Felipe Bautista.
Ruthie is a very special patient. I think I've joked with the family and Ruthie before, but I can confidently say that she had the biggest spleen that I've ever seen or have ever examined.
And we would use it for when I got sleepy medicine.
For the first 8 months, Ruthie underwent intense chemotherapy multiple times a week before being able to pull back to once a month.
I mean, she was just a rock star. I know it wasn't always easy for her, but she made it seem easy.
And 6 more, you did 36 Riley shots. Where did you do them? Where'd you get them in your body?
Legs.
And the toughest part of all this, what has that
been? I think just the adjustment the whole family had to make. Ruthie's got 2 older sisters. They really had to give up a lot of the attention they were used to getting from me and my husband and their younger sister.
90% of ALL patients in the U.S. are cured from the disease over about 2 years.
Fortunately, science has made lots of progress in acute lymphoblastic leukemia, from it being a nearly fatal disease from everybody in the 1960s, 1950s, 1940s. We've come a long way, and now we can cure most of our patients.
On June 4th, 2025, Ruthie walked down a red carpet with her older sister, showered with confetti and surrounded by cheers to ring the bell at the end of her cancer treatment.
And it just kind of underlined that this has been a whole family experience. And she paid the highest cost physically, but it was something that we did together.
Carrie says Ruthie's most recent scans show she is cancer-free. Now the family is looking forward to what comes next.
And then the 100-week coat.
That this isn't going to be the thing that defines us forever. It is a phase of life that is pivotal for our daughter, most especially, also our family, but it's not going to be hanging over our heads the rest of our life.
About 85% of children with cancer now live 5 years or more following a diagnosis. This is a huge improvement from the mid-1970s, when the 5-year survival rate was about 58%. Still ahead, she preserves the intricate details of a town's past, including stories some would rather hide.
There's lots of the dark side of life that doesn't show up in the newspaper.
We introduce you to an archivist inspired to turn the negative into something good.
But first, a deadly disguise.
So in this case, they suspect the drug to be fentanyl.
Tainted street drugs are resulting in more overdoses and deaths. We examine the dangers and explain how an innovative testing program could save lives.
You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime, streaming online. Get the app for Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. It's free to download. A single substance no longer drives the overdose crisis.
Along with fentanyl, the illegal drug supply has been contaminated with a number of substances, including tranquilizers and other synthetic opioids that increase risk of an OD. And most of the time, users are unaware of what they're consuming, making overdose reversal nearly impossible.
Reporter Caroline Hecker shows us how a program in St. Louis helps identify which drugs are making the rounds on the streets and why it could be a potential solution to prevent another drug death.
Inside the St. Louis County Medical Examiner's office is a laboratory gaining first-of-its-kind insight into St. Louis's street drugs.
There is information on where to submit the kits.
Sarah Riley leads Project Eagle Fang. It's an initiative designed to test drug products and paraphernalia.
This was a pipe.
All of which is submitted anonymously by community organizations helping those suffering from substance use disorder.
These are some like crystals.
The users give the samples a name and what they suspect the drug to be.
So in this case, they suspect the drug to be fentanyl.
They're then tested in the lab, and the findings can be surprising.
Very frequently, there is a mismatch between what the individual who donated the drug thought the drug was and what is actually the drug.
Riley says most drugs are discovered to be cut with multiple chemicals and other drugs, sometimes more than a dozen.
The thing that we're learning, the one thing, is that you can't expect your drug to be what you think it is. And you can't expect there not to be drugs in your drugs. So education is really important.
Every month, the results are posted to an online dashboard, offering the public and physicians a better picture of what's out there.
This picture was taken at our daughter's wedding.
Ellis and Patty Fitzwater know the pain of addiction.
We were completely blindsided. When we heard the word heroin, it took me to my knees.
Their son Michael died of a heroin overdose in 2014 after getting hooked on prescription pills. They say prevention is key, and tools like the dashboard play a big role.
People will think it's just, marijuana, or that it's just this or that, and it's many times many things.
That awareness, they say, needs to become more mainstream.
And unless it's hit home, unless it's affected you in some way, you don't really give it much thought. But that's where we need to change things. You do need to give this thought.
Because in this lab, the test results are often unforgiving.
According to Johns Hopkins University, several states across the country have supported community drug checking efforts.
Up next, a dark past inspired a former librarian to make her future brighter.
Making a major change in what you can do, if you can do it, is rejuvenating.
We reveal how history and a leap of faith inspired her to become the woman she is today.
It's an archivist's job to collect, organize, and preserve materials that document our lives.
In Vermont, a former librarian not only curates a town's rich history, but she's also the keeper of her own inspiring story. Reporter Joe Carroll reveals how she went from trauma to triumph.
As the saying goes, the only constant in life is change. From the seasons to a once booming railroad transporting granite out of Hardwick.
Is it fair to say these tracks changed the town?
Absolutely.
As the president of the Hardwick Historical Society, Elizabeth Wiz Dow is the curator of the town's rich history. But like everyone, Wiz has a personal story to be told. More on that in a bit.
Along about 1905, the granite industry that grew up here was putting the equivalent of $1.2 million per month into this economy.
The trains are long gone, replaced by bicyclists cruising on the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail. What does remain is the 1882 train depot, now occupied by the Historical Society.
Nice building.
Nice building, yes.
But with the old, there's something new. A climate-controlled storage room for archival materials. A wealthy donor left the society $90,000 in her will. Wiz hustled to get 30 grand to make this room happen.
I refer to them as sugar daddies, yes. This is essentially a box that has 10 inches of insulation on all 6 sides, sitting within the historic building.
This is unusual.
This is very unusual. I'm a professional archivist. I knew what this should be.
Wiz was also a librarian at various schools in Vermont. At 57, she was offered a job in a place and state she never dreamed she'd end up.
And I said,
Louisiana State University.
So what's the moral of the story here?
the moral of the story is that making a major change in what you can do, if you can do it, is rejuvenating.
After 13 years at LSU, she came back to Vermont to retire.
So I see 1962, that's the year I was born.
The Historical Society has a large collection of the Hardwick Gazette.
Community Halloween party. There's lots of the dark side of life that doesn't show up in the newspaper.
The dark side of Wiz's early life wouldn't make the paper either.
I developed two mantras. One was, if I don't get well, the bastards have won. And the other was, living well is the best revenge.
Which the 82-year-old has. She does not want to be defined by those troubled years, but the woman she's become.
I've got everything I need to be contented, and I am.
In those early troubled years, well, that's history.
And that's it for us on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Thanks for watching. On the next Investigate TV Plus, they can look like law enforcement, but we found bounty hunters face fewer constitutional restraints.
They think they can come in like the old Wild Wild West and just come in, grab somebody, and bust down a door and go, "Oh, I'm sorry, it was the wrong door."
We uncover how a patchwork of rules and regulations could put innocent people at risk.